Joint Committee on Agriculture and Committee on Health to order. Today is April 13th, 2022, 11 a.m. We're in conference room 325, and we are addressing one measure, SCR 215 SD1. First to testify will be Charlotte Carter Yamauchi from the Legislative Reference Bureau. Oh, I'm sorry. She won't be here live. The first person to join us on Zoom will be Deborah Halbert from University of Hawaii.
Good morning, Chair Hashem and Vice Chair Peruso. I'm Deborah Halbert, Vice President for Academic Strategy for the U. I'm sorry I can't be there in person today, but I have actually simultaneous Zoom meetings going on, so I will not be able to stay long-term. The University of Hawaii stands on its written testimony requesting that this resolution be deferred. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have here either on Zoom or in person, Steve Schatz, the Director of P20, and Dean Nicholas Cumberford, who is the Dean of the UH Manoa CTAR College, if you have any specific requests or questions about those aspects of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Stephen Schatz, Hawaii P20 Partnerships for Education.
Good morning. Yes, I'm here.
Do you want to add any comments, or you're just here for questions?
I'm just here if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Ken Farm, individual.
Hello, Chair. My name is Ken Farm. I am supporting this resolution, but with amendments. Recommend that all language pertaining to CTAR be stricken from the current language, and that new language to be added as what the testimony that CTAR look into a certification in vertical farming and urban farming. So I believe that that would be appropriate for something like this. The main intent of this resolution was to look at moving the Nursing and Human Services program to HCC. And the reason being is because of the situation we have with homeless, mental health, and having those students be able to be immersed in that, as with the report that I have submitted as part of my testimony, is something that would be a benefit throughout. And I think that we have service providers that would be willing to have them be immersed in that, going through the HMIS system, understanding intake, and then there's this cross training that goes on from the human services side with the healthcare side, so that there's an understanding there. And I think that something like that is very powerful. So with that said, again, I do support this resolution with amendments.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we are going to recess for decision-making on this one measure, and then we will come back to address the rest of the agenda. we're going to resume with the rest of the agenda and hope that the rest of the health committee joins us soon. Moving on to SCR 67. We have Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser from the Department of Agriculture.
Aloha and good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser, Chairperson, Hawaii Department of Agriculture. We stand on our written testimony offering comments on the resolution. We feel that the information that is intended in this resolution is available, and we provided a link in our written testimony. Thank you. We're available to answer any questions.
Thank you. We also have Annie Frederick from Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action.
Aloha, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee, Annie Frederick on behalf of the Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action and strong support. In addition to our written testimony, I would like to address why we think more detailed reporting is important. So while the summary report published on the Department of Ag website provides a general summary of the total number of yearly inspections and enforcement actions, it does not provide the kind of specific detail that could aid decision makers in understanding the potential threats to public health and the environment that in turn can inform policy. For example, what RUPs were potentially misused? Are there certain communities or areas that have higher rates of violations? What type of violations occurred? So for example, certain RUPs are more volatile and others and more likely to drift off target. Correlating the RUP use data with complaints could help aid regulators as well. Our work emerged from communities who had been regularly exposed to pesticide drift, seeking basic transparency about what they could have been exposed to. And it took well over a decade for that data to be mandatorily reported. We appreciate the steps in the right direction to make this information publicly available, but frankly, it is still not in a format that would easily allow a resident living near a heavily sprayed field to understand what they might be exposed to and the potential health impacts. We very much see the value in being able to review violations data and the RUP use data side by side to get a more comprehensive picture of where potential harm might occur. Similarly, with the violations reporting, the publicly posted reporting doesn't allow an ordinary person to understand how their community might be affected. We are also sympathetic to the lack of resources and limited capacity within the Department of Agriculture and the pesticides branch, and would certainly support additional funding to support this work. Perhaps the recent multi-million-dollar settlements from serial pesticide use violators could support the DOA more broadly and the pesticide branch and help prevent future violations. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 other individuals who submitted written testimony in support. Members, are there any questions? I have a quick question for the Department of Agriculture.
Yes, Chair.
So with respect to the notion that we could be using the fines, the money from fines to further strengthen this reporting effort, is that something that is conceivable? Is that possible?
I would say that, you know, the condition of this the award is specified, what it is intended to be used. I would ask if you could let Greg Takashima into the hearing so that he can describe what the allowable use of the settlement money would be.
Sure. Do we have Greg Takashima in the waiting room? We don't have him in the waiting room.
Oh, or Victoria Matsumura? None are there?
Neither of them are in the
Okay,
waiting room.
yeah, so can we get back to you because I don't have the exact language, but I know that the intention is stated when we got the award.
Thank you. Okay, so members, are there any other questions? Seeing none, we are going to, at this point, recess for decision-making on SCR 215 SC1. So we'll go ahead and recess. Making on SCR 215 SD1. We are going to revert this resolution to its original language, taking out all of the language that was added in SD1 and sending it to the Senate for their agreement. Members, are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay, members, we're voting on SCR 215 SD2. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. The chair and vice chair vote aye. Representative Lowen.
Aye.
Representative Martin is excused. Representative Matayoshi. Aye. Representative Todd. Aye. Representative Tokioka and Matsumoto are excused. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Members of the Health, Human Services, Homelessness Committee voting on SCR 215, same recommendation. Discussion? Seeing none, chair for the vote.
Okay, recommendation of the vice chair to move SCR 215 SD1 as an HD1, chair and vice chair voting aye. Chair Gates? Aye. Representative Capella?
Aye.
Okay, measure moves.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are going to move recess. We'll continue with SCR 76, a resolution to prohibit unapproved residential use of farm buildings in agricultural parks. Our only testifier on this measure is Chair Phyllis Shimabukuro-Geyser from the Department of Ag.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair. We stand on our written testimony offering comments. Our board has the ability to approve requests for construction of farm dwellings. And it's usually based on a clear determination and demonstration of need. And the majority of the requests have been for security purposes. So we feel that we do have the means to address the intent of the resolution. We're available to answer any questions. I have Deputy Morris Atta available also. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, I have a quick follow-up question. I've spoken with the author of this resolution, and it seems that the origination of this measure lies in the impact of these exceptions, the granting of these exemptions to other farmers in the ag park. So the impact that it has on other farmers in the ag parks, because the activities of the farming activities are impacted because those farmers don't want to affect the dwelling, right? So if someone is living on their property, then they're going to refrain from engaging in heavy, for example, like pesticide use or equipment use near that dwelling, and it's causing a loss of land use in the ag park. So can you quickly speak to that? Because I heard you saying that you make this determination on the basis of need. So on the basis of the need of that individual, but I didn't really hear you discuss any analysis of the impact on the farmers surrounding that parcel.
Thank you for the question. You know, the public, including neighboring lessees in our ag parks and our non-ag parks, they have the opportunity, the right to come before the board. These requests are on the agenda. They're public notice, and they can speak to whether they disagree or they agree with the board granting approval for a farm dwelling on the lease. So we rarely, it's not something that's common that comes before the board, but when it does come before the board, there is opportunity for public discussion.
I appreciate that, but I want to say that it seems to me to be fairly unlikely that farmers will be regularly checking the Board of Agriculture's minutes and agenda notices for topics of this nature, especially when if it's rare. So are you providing notification to the surrounding farmers that such an exception has been granted or is in the process of being approved?
I'll have to defer to Morris, or because Morris Atta was formerly our ag land program manager. Morris, can you answer that question?
Okay, Morris Atta for department. Ordinarily, when a request for like this for an exception comes before the board, it is specific to that parcel. So there is usually, as far as I understand, there's no usual protocol to notify all the other tenants surrounding that property, especially when it comes to a request to put up a structure, as opposed to conduct specific kinds of operations that can have impacts to surrounding areas. Usually, these secondary impacts that you mentioned is not really the subject of the discussion. So there, to my knowledge, the neighboring, farmers are not brought into this discussion.
Okay, so that might be part of the problem. And is there any way that once the process has begun, so that approval has been granted, is there any point at which surrounding farmers can challenge the approval?
I'm not aware of a challenge process, because the opportunity to challenge is usually at the board meeting that is a public forum for public input. And I'm somewhat kind of confused, or not confused, but I'm trying to assess the nature and extent of the nuisances that seem to be generating the request, because I mean, it is within an ag community, and typically there will be carryover nuisances that may occur from ordinary agricultural activities. So I'm not certain what is driving the concern.
Right, so the way it was explained to me, it was actually, the concern is about this desire to not negatively impact people who are living on their ag park parcel. So that they are going to refrain from certain activities within a boundary around that particular dwelling. So it's impacting their own farming activities. But it's good. I mean, it's important to know that there aren't these other kind of processes in place to talk about the impact on others. So that's important information. Thank you.
Yeah.
Members, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to SCR 169. First to testify will be Director Phyllis Shimabukuro-Geiser from the Department of Ag.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chairs, and members of the committee. We sent out a written testimony. We support the intent of the measure and we offer comments. We note in our written testimony that we already have, the ability to do this administratively. We cite our Hawaii administrative rules, and as we stated in our written testimony, we are trying to move forward to assist with the intent by working with our various federal and state partners to look into a new approach, which we reference, the clean plant diagnostic approach, to further the growth of the industry. So we're available to answer any questions, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go into the related measure SCR 172, also related to quarantine facilities. And first to testify will be Dr. Phyllis Shimabukuro-Geiser from the Department of Ag.
Thank you again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Yes, we stand on our written testimony supporting the intent, and we comment that we already have the ability to work with the affected industry, and we are moving forward to do that as stated in our written testimony. Available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the last measure. We have some, on that measure, we had some testimony in support. 3 individuals, or James Kimo Falconer from the Hawaii Coffee Growers in support, and then 2 individuals in support. So SCR 196 is our final measure. And we'll hear first from Kurt Cottrell from DLNR.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Kurt Cottrell, Administrator, Division of State Parks. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I see that Alan Carpenter is also here, but I imagine there's a minute you are just here to answer questions. Is that
correct?
Yep. Thank you. Members, are there any questions on this measure? Seeing none, we are going to recess for decision making. For decision making on the measures before us. So we are going to be, well, my recommendation is that we move forward SCR 67, SCR 76, SCR 169, SCR 172, and SCR 196 as is. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members, we're voting on SCR 67, SCR 76, SCR 169, SCR 172, SCR 196. Chair's recommendation is to pass all the measures unamended. Is there any concerns or no's? Seeing none, members, thank you, members. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Thank you, members. We are
Adjourned.